Okay, so now we're ready to add the dimensions to our saddle bracket drawing. If you need to pull the border in and go through that same process, just as a reminder, you need to follow this procedure using existing files with drawing borders, okay? Before you start dimensioning so that we get all of our proper dimension styles set up. Okay. Now you're going to notice here for the saddle bracket, this is going to be the first one that we do. And this is going to be one of your module practice problems. Okay. And if you click on this, this is a PDF. Okay. And this is a PDF of the saddle bracket with the border around it and all of the dimensions that we are going to be adding. Okay. So what we're going to do now is since we have our border around, we have our views in place, we're ready to add the dimensions. So we want to add all the dimensions here. Now, as we look, you're going to notice that I kind of kept it simple. Again, we're kind of starting out dimensioning. If we look at all the decimal places on the dimensions that I have here, they're all 2-place decimals, okay? So we want to be sure that when we go over to AutoCAD, that we have our 2-place decimals current, okay? That we have there. Then what we're going to do is dimensions are always on the dimension layer. So we're going to change from the object line layer to the dimension layer, okay? Make sure you do that because remember, and I'm going to turn on my line widths down here, our object lines, our center lines, our dimensions, as well as our hidden lines, all of them that we set certain line types to. And it's going to be a thinner line weight than what our object lines are, which is good. So now we're just going to kind of, do the dimensioning. I'm going to start up in my top view here. And as a guide in the top view, from the left-hand side to the center, we are going to put a horizontal dimension in there, okay? And then we're going to add the radius and the diameter. So 3 different types of dimensioning, okay, or dimensions. So I'm going to go over to AutoCAD. Now, on the home ribbon, we have a place where we can select our dimensions. So right now, if you go up here, there's a horizontal dimension or a linear dimension there. If you arrow down, these are all the different types of dimensions that you can do, and there's a name associated with them. So linear dimension is what we're going to use first for that 3.25 dimension, okay? Then we're going to use a radius dimension for the 1.25, and then we're going to do a diameter dimension for the diameter of 1. The nice thing about the radius and the diameter is they put the R in front for us right away, so you don't have to worry about that. And they also use the symbol for the diameter in front of it. Additionally, when we do it as the diameter or as the dimension, it'll automatically put our leader in line with the center line of that feature, okay? If you don't do that, if you don't use it as a dimension and you put it in as a note or a leader, I'll know right away because it won't line up with the center properly, okay? So always, if there is a dimension available to you, always use that first. So let's use the linear dimension first. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I'm going to grab the end point here. Make sure you have object snaps on here because you want to make sure that you're grabbing the end points of your features. So once that end point activates, we're going to click on it, okay? And then it's looking for the second point. We're going to click on the end point of our center line. I'm going to click on that. And then now what's going to happen, why is that right side not going? I'm going to have to look at that. Then I can left click to place my dimension. That is so weird. I noticed that in my dimension style. Hold on. What happened on this one? Modify. Lines. Bilayer, bilayer, bilayer. Extension. I have no idea. All right. I'm not going to worry about it. What was that? Yeah. Oh, is that weird? I wonder why that got unchecked. So they should be both checked. Oh no, uncheck both of them. Uncheck both of them because I want them both there. I must have, when I was clicking around, inadvertently done that. Thank you. Okay, so now that should be okay. I'm going to set that as current close. There we go. I'm going to have to update my template to be sure that that's on there. Okay, so now I've got an extension line. Hopefully you have yours. So that's a linear dimension. Anytime you have a horizontal or a vertical dimension, we want to use a linear dimension. The next one we're going to use, I'm going to arrow down again, and I'm going to use my radius dimension. Okay, radius dimension. I'm going to click on the radius. So whenever I don't have a full circle and I only have an arc like we see here on the end, that's considered a radius and not a diameter dimension. So I'm going to left click on that. And notice I could dimension on the part, but I'm not going to. I'm going to pull away. And I'm just, now, I never want to have this horizontal and I never want to have this vertical, okay? I want to be somewhere here-ish, okay? And then I'm just going to left click to place it, okay? So it's clicking on the radius and then clicking to place it. Super easy, all right? Now, if you're getting a little center mark here, that means that in your dimension manager, you did not uncheck that, okay? Because it'll put it in there automatically. The next one that I'm going to do is going to be my diameter. So I'm going to down arrow here, and I'm going to select the diameter dimension. I'm going to click on the full circle, and again, pull away up and to the right. Notice it has the diameter in front of it, and we have our 1-inch diameter, okay? Now, the way that I put them on the drawing here, to me, just kind of made sense. If you would put your 1-inch diameter down here and the radius up here, I don't care. All right. As long as they're not overlapping or, you know, off the page or anything. Oh, one other thing that I do want to mention that I haven't mentioned yet is if I go back to AutoCAD here, I'm going to just zoom out. You cannot put any part of a view or any dimensions past this inner line of our border or overlapping any of the title block. Okay. If you end up doing that, that means that you need to pull in your border larger. So then you would pull it in at a scale of 1.5 or 2 or something like that, so that you can then, you know, have enough room for all your dimensioning. Okay, so that's my top view. The next one I'm going to go down here. I'm going to do my front view here. All right, and I'm going to duplicate the dimensions that are here. Really, all of them are linear dimensions, except for my radius here. And I'll show you, you know, how you can do that one. So I'm going to put my linears in first. So I'm going to, now I've been using this down arrow here because it identifies what each type of those symbols is for me, which is nice. Since we pulled out our dimension toolbar, if you hover over the one at the left here, this is a linear dimension. Okay, so you can click it here as well and get the very same result. Okay, so now I'm going to add my 2-inch dimension. Okay, I'm going to go up with it, and then I'm going to add my 0.5 dimension. Okay, and my 1-inch dimension. Now, right now, these are a little close. So what I'm going to do is, the beauty of CAD is I can move my views a little bit further apart. And you're going to notice, at least on how I dimension this, I didn't put anything underneath here. So I'm actually going to move this down a little bit. What that means is I need to keep this in orthographic projection. So I can select my 2 views, the front and the right side view, but I'm going to put my ortho on because I want to make sure that this goes down vertically in line with the top view. So I'm going to go up to move. I'm going to left click and select both views, hit enter, and I'm just going to do a random vertical line down right about there, just so I have a little bit more room in between here, because to me, these are a little close. Now, if I want to move my dimensions after they're in place, something really easy to do is I can left click it, and now notice we get those grips. I'm going to left click, and I'm going to left click again where I want it to go. Don't drag, okay? So it's a left click and a left click, all right? And I usually do the number, and then I'm going to left click, go up a little bit, and I think that looks pretty good. You can put them in line if you want them to be, but they don't have to be. Then I'm going to do my linear vertical dimensions this way overall. Your longest dimension typically is going to be for that, you know, side. In this case, it's the 1.75. You want that to be the furthest out. That's going to ensure that you're not going to overlap dimension lines and such. Okay. So another linear dimension from the bottom to the bottom here. Now, make sure, I'm going to zoom in here. Notice how I'm grabbing endpoints. So then that automatically creates the gaps that I set up. So notice that my dimension lines are not going into the part. There are gaps here for everything, right? If you don't have those, I'll circle them and you'll lose points. Okay. Then the last linear dimension I have in this view is going to be the 0.5. Now you're going to notice that it automatically goes here. If you wanted to get it the way mine was, I usually like them in the middle. Just left click it. Take your left click onto your number. I'm going to turn my ortho off, and then I can just place it in between, and then it'll put the arrows so that they're on the outside. Okay. All right. So everybody have those in so far if you're following along with me. My linear dimensions aren't giving me the line to the second point. Oh, Aaron, I don't know what that means. My linear dimensions aren't giving me the line to the second point. Do you mean extension line here? Yes. Oh, okay. So I don't know. I unchecked it for some reason. So if you go underneath here and you go back to, if you click on this little dimension manager and you click on that, go to modify. And Chris actually let me know on the lines tab, make sure that these are both unchecked. Mine got checked inadvertently. I don't know why when we were doing it, but it wasn't supposed to be. So make sure that those are unchecked, hit OK, set as current, and then close. And it should appear, hopefully. Did that work, Aaron? Okay, good. Good. All right, now the radius on the inside. That radius is a radius of 0.25. So we are going to use our radius dimension, okay? Radius dimension. Again, you can either click it on the down arrow or you can get it off of the toolbar. I'm going to click on that and it's going to create this little circle. I'm not a huge fan of that, all right? So if you want to play with that and you left click it, and you right click it. So left click it to activate it, right click it to go to properties. And this will change it for the one dimension, not overall, just for the one dimension. I'm going to click on that. Then this dialog box is going to come up. Okay. It's going to look something like this. Okay. It's going to be on the left-hand side. We're going to go down to lines and arrows and just one center mark. Where it says extension line, now this is just for this one. We are going to put it off. So you're going to arrow down and you're going to click on off. Okay. The extension line is that radius, as that's going over the top for that radius dimension. Okay. And then, I'm sorry, what was that? I do that. It's like, puts my radius on the inside. So you're going to right click on it, properties. And then you're going to go down to extension line, which is in the middle there. And you just want to turn that off. Okay. And then you can close that dialog box by hitting the X. So now you can click on it and you can move it where you want it to go. And then it will be another left click for the new position. Okay. If you leave it with the extension line on and the radius, I'm okay with that. It's not a huge deal. I'm not crazy about it. So there is a way you can change it and then just change it on that one dimension. Otherwise, if you get rid of the extension line, then it's not going to do it for other dimensions. Okay. So that's a way to, put it in there if you would. My preferred method. It's not wrong to do it the other way. All right. So then now we have just the right side view to do. Okay. So these are all linear dimensions. So we can add those. Now, something I'm going to tell you about the dimensions here. You're going to notice that we have the 0.5, okay? Every dimension needs 2 arrowheads. Every dimension needs 2 arrowheads. Sometimes students like to overlap dimensions and it might cover up a dimension line. So I'm going to show you an example of what you never want to do. Every dimension needs 2 arrowheads. So for instance, I'm going to put my linear dimension in here. Okay. And let's say it's 0.5 there, right? And I'm like, I think I want it on the inside. Okay, so I'm going to put it right on the inside here. And it puts the arrows on the outside of the dimension. Okay. Then I am going to add another linear dimension to be on the inside here. And I'm going to put it right in line. Never do that. Every dimension needs 2 arrowheads. So right now I have 2 dimensions and I only have 1, 2, 3 arrowheads. Always shift this up so it's out of the way. So if you want the 0.5 on the inside, I have no problem with that. Notice that on mine, I kind of shifted it over so I would have 2 on the inside here. If you put it on the inside, outside, left or right, it's totally fine, but every dimension needs 2 arrowheads. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, that difference. So feel free to do that. I don't mind, but then just make sure that you don't overlap the other ones. And then we're going to do another linear dimension, outside, outside. Notice I'm maintaining all of my gaps. I'm grabbing endpoints on each one of these. If you get a funny dimension like a 0.49, you probably didn't grab an endpoint as long as you drew it correctly. Dimensioning also lets you know if you did it correctly or not. So if something isn't quite right, then you have to go back and you have to change the actual feature dimension itself so that it's on. And then the last dimension I have here is going to be from here down to the bottom, and this one is 1 inch. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a zoom extent so I see everything. Now, one other thing you always want to check on your dimensioning, and this is important, is as I zoom in here, I'm going to go down here. You want to look at the size of the text in your title block should be the same size as the text in your dimensions. If they're a lot smaller or a lot bigger, then you didn't set up, you don't have the same scale for your dimension size to what you pulled your drawing in at. Okay. Now we pulled, I should say drawing border in at. We pulled our border in, we got to leave it at 1:1. And our views were 1:1 as well. So we didn't have to mess around with or change the scale through the modify here. So if I go to, fit, my scale remained at 1:1. Okay. If I need to change that, all right. So let's say I pulled my border in and it had to be bigger around my part. Let's say I pulled it in at 2. That meant that my border is 2 times. So technically, the way that I printed out, my stuff is half scale, okay? I would have to change this to 0.5, okay? And by doing that, I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to set current. I'm going to hit OK. Now look what happened to all my dimensions. They changed right away. So I don't want to do that here, but that's where I was saying earlier, depending on what you pull your dimensions in at, you might have to change that. So if you're looking at your border and your text, like right here, where steel, any of the things that we filled in, if those are larger than the text that you have in your dimension, your scales aren't right. Okay. So I'm going to go back to 1:1, modify. I'm going to go to fit, and I'm going to change this back to 1. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to set current, and then I'm going to hit close. And now they all go to the right size. Okay. Because we set that as an annotative in the text and in the dimension manager, that's why that works so easily. Okay. All right. I know I'm talking a little longer tonight, but go ahead and save your saddle bracket drawing. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save it as a PDF because you're going to upload the PDF to the Module 5 practice problems. So we're going to do File, and we're going to go to Plot. Okay, we're going to go to Plot. Don't do a Save As, do a Plot. Then it's going to ask us what plotter do you want? You want to change it to that AutoCAD PDF. I just do the general documentation usually. That one seems to work for everybody. If you don't have Adobe, then the Adobe's not going to work. So I want to make sure we're using one that everybody can use. So AutoCAD PDF. Then what you're going to do is you're going to change your plot area from display. You're going to arrow down and hit window. And now if you need to kind of roll her out, you're going to click on the outside edge of your border. It's a click, click, not a click and drag. and then click on the lower right. Before we do anything else, we're going to preview to make sure everything is in there. Make sure that everything fits in, okay? If you only have a portion, I'm going to X out of here, then you want to make sure that plot scale is fit to paper. It's usually checked, but not all the time. So make sure that's checked and then re-preview. And then all you're going to do is hit OK. Okay, OK. And then now it's going to navigate to where you want to save that PDF. If you were printing it to a printer, if you selected a printer, then it would print to the printer at this point. But now it's, if you would, printing the PDF. So now you just want to navigate to where you saved your Module 5 drawing. Yes.
Border, we said it was a certain size. I think we said
it was a B, yes, B size.
Should we be selecting paper size?
No, don't select the paper size because it's going to fit it to the, yeah. Module, and then Module 5 drawings, and you just want to hit save here. Okay. It's always going to have that dash model on it, so you'll know that that's your PDF, and then it'll give you a preview here. Okay. And then you can just X out of that. Now it's saved that PDF for you to then select when you want to upload to your practice problems. Okay. So that's the saddle bracket. I am going to stop the recording.